Her R stood before the massive display screen in her ship's command center. Her blue-scaled hands shook as she watched another colony burn. The ship moved like hungry beasts through space, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. Each flash of their weapon meant thousands more of her people were dead. Ambassador, her aide whispered, "We should leave the system, though will detect us soon." His large golden eyes never left the screen. "No, we stay and watch. Someone must remember what happened here." Been a peaceful people for over 3,000 years. They built beautiful cities on garden worlds, created art that moved souls, and shared their knowledge freely with anyone who asked. They had no armies because they had no enemies. War was something they read about in ancient history books. The empire came from the dark spaces between stars. First attack had been swift and brutal. 7 worlds fell in a single day. They did not want to talk or trade. They wanted slaves and resources. They took both with terrible efficiency. 6 months later, only 12 worlds remained free. Soon, even those would fall. "The Council has abandoned us," her aide said bitterly. "Every message we send to the Galactic Council gets the same response. They say they are too strong. They say helping us would only bring the war to their own worlds." I finally turned away from the burning planet. "Then we must look beyond the Council. Somewhere in the galaxy, there must be someone brave enough to help us." Her aide's crest feathers drooped with despair. "Who, Ambassador? The hide behind their energy shields. They have already signed peace treaties with the machine world. Say organic conflicts are not their concern. Who's left?" Walked to her personal computer terminal. Her fingers moved across the holographic controls, accessing the deepest databases of galactic civilization. She had spent weeks searching through every record, every file, every whispered rumor stored in the vast networks that connected all known worlds. Species in the galaxy were like the peaceful, evolved from herbivores on gentle worlds. They built beautiful things but could not fight when monsters came calling. Others, like were predators but still bound by the same universal laws that made space travel possible for all thing beings. Sometimes, in the darkest corners of the database, she found references to something else entirely. Here she said, highlighting a series of restricted files. "Look at this." Aide moved close to the screen. "I do not understand, Ambassador. These files are marked with warning symbols I have never seen before." Files were old, dating back over 200 years. Most were heavily classified, accessible only to the highest levels of galactic government. But emergency protocols had given our temporary access to classified materials, and she had used every second of that access to dig deeper. 3, she read aloud. "Classification, quarantine zone, absolute. Species, human, status, extreme biological hazard." Her aide stepped back from the screen. "Biological hazard, are they diseased?" Continue reading. "No, listen to this. Species exhibits unprecedented levels of aggression, adaptability, and technological development rate. Evolutionary background, apex predator from high-gravity Deathworld. Psychological profile, pack hunters with primitive territorial instincts. Recommendation, complete isolation from galactic civilization." Deathworld? Her aide's voice was barely a whisper. "Those are just stories, aren't they?" Child in the galaxy knew the stories about Deathworlds. Planets so dangerous that only the strongest, meanest, most violent creatures could survive there. Worlds where everything tried to kill everything else, where survival meant becoming a monster yourself. Most species believed they were just scary stories told to make children appreciate their safe, peaceful home. Here was proof that at least one Deathworld was real, and something lived there. Scrolled through more files. Look at this incident report from their first contact with galactic civilization. A human diplomatic ship was invited to a peace conference on station. During negotiations, a minor accident occurred in the station's reactor core. The human delegation said they could help fix it. "It sounds helpful," her aide said hopefully. The station chief engineer told them it was impossible to repair without shutting down the station for 6 months. The humans said they could fix it in 2 hours while the reactor was still running. When the engineer insisted it could not be done, the humans asked if they could just remove the problem instead. Her aide waited for the rest of the story. Blew up a small moon to use its debris as raw materials for replacement parts. The explosion was so controlled and precise that they harvested Pacific minerals from Pacific geological layer, while the moon population watched from evacuation ships. The reactor was fixed in 97 minutes. The command center fell silent, kept for the hum of the ship system. "Destroyed a moon," her aide said slowly, "as a minor rare project." Galactic Council immediately classified them as too dangerous for normal contact. Their entire solar system was surrounded with warning beacons and interdiction fields. No one has spoken to them since. Pulled up a star chart. The human system was marked with symbols she had never seen before, warnings in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing. Stay away. "Ambassador, surely you are not considering." "Considering exactly that. RB implying a course of the forbidden solar system. We have exhausted every other option. The Council will not help us. The civilized species are too afraid to fight. Our people are dying while we debate." Her aide grabbed her arm. "But the warnings, the quarantine, these humans were banned from galactic society for a reason." Gently removed her aide's hand and continued working. "Yes, they were banned because they are dangerous. But dangerous to whom? Peaceful species who live safe lives on comfortable worlds. Or dangerous to monsters like them." Finch plotting the course and looked at her aide one last time. "We are dying anyway. At least it gives us a chance." Ship's engines hummed to life, carrying them toward the unknown. Behind them, another world fell silent as its last transmission ended in static. Ahead of them lay the quarantine zone and whatever weighed in the darkness around the Deathworld called Earth. They jumped into hyperspace. R composed a simple message in the basic galactic trade language. She had no idea if the humans would understand it, or even if they were still alive after 2 centuries of isolation. The message was short. "We are dying, please help us." Aimed it toward the 3rd planet of the Sol system and pressed send, not knowing that she had just awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Sarah was drinking her morning coffee when the universe changed forever. Alert came through the deep space monitoring station on Luna at 3:47 Earth Standard Time. The duty officer, Lieutenant Torres, stared at his screens with the kind of confusion that usually meant equipment failure. "Admiral," he said over the comm, his voice tight with disbelief, "we're receiving a transmission from outside the quarantine zone." Admiral set down her coffee cup very carefully. In 30 years of military service, she had never heard those words. Nothing came through the quarantine zone. Nothing was supposed to come through the quarantine zone. "Are you certain, Lieutenant?" "Yes, ma'am. The signal penetrated our outer defense grid at marker beacon 77 Alpha. It's definitely alien in origin." Was already moving toward the command center before he finished speaking. 2 centuries of isolation had made humanity very paranoid about unsuspected visitors. The last time aliens had contacted Earth, it had ended with humanity being kicked out of galactic civilization like unwanted relatives at a family gathering. command center buzzed with activity when she arrived. Every screen showed the same impalpable thing, a transmission from the stars, directed specifically at Earth. What do we know? Admiral asked as she took her position at the central command station. The head of xenobiology looked up from his analysis workstation. It's using the basic galactic trade language we learned during first contact. The signal is weak, suggesting long-range transmission, probably from several light years away. What does it say? Or hesitate. It's very simple, Admiral, just 7 words. We are dying, please help us. And center fell quiet. Admiral stared at the translation on the main screen. 7 simple words that had somehow made it through humanity's most advanced defensive system. Where to point, she asked. The signal came from the direction of the systems, approximately 47 light years. According to our old galactic databases, that area was inhabited by a peaceful herbivore species. Last intelligence we had on them was over 200 years old. Well, not slowly. The databases were ancient, but they were all humanity had. When the Galactic Council had imposed the quarantine, they had also cut off all information networks. Earth had been flying blind for 2 centuries. Lieutenant Torres called out, "We're getting secondary transmission, video and data packets." The main screen changed to show an alien figure tall, slender, covered in blue-green scales with large golden eyes. The creature looked exhausted and afraid. When it spoke, the translation software provided subtitles. My name is Ambassador R of the Confederation. If anyone receives the message, please know that we are desperate. Our worlds are being destroyed by an enemy we cannot fight. We have tried everything. We have appealed to every civilized species in the galaxy. No one will help us. Alien's voice broke with emotion. We found records of your people in the old databases. We know you were quarantined. We know the galaxy considers you dangerous, but we are running out of options in time. If you have any compassion, if you have any honor, please consider our plea. Transmission switched to images that made the humans in the command center step back from their screens. Burning cities, ships fleeing through space while dark veil pursued them, explosions that turned whole moons into drifting all. Empire has declared war on peace itself, the alien continued. They do not want our surrender, they want our extinction. In 6 months they have killed billions of my people. Soon none of us will remain. It just showed massive alien warships, their hulls covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They move through space like sharks through water, efficient and deadly. I know nothing about your people except that you are strong enough to frighten the galaxy. We hope you are also good enough to care about strangers in need. Transmission ended with coordinates and a final plea. Please hurry. We do not have much time left. Admiral stood in the silence that followed. Around her, the command staff waited for orders that would shape humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. Options, she asked finally. Pulled up files on his workstation. According to the old databases, they are exactly what they appear to be, peaceful herbivores from low-gravity garden worlds. They've never fought a war in their recorded history. They're basically space farmers and artists. And the species from a harsher world. Militaristic society based on conquest and dominance. They've been expanding their empire for the last 500 years. The galactic powers usually just let them take what they want rather than fight them. Admiral studied the tactical displays showing the estimated position of both alien species. Military estimate. The tactical officer had been running numbers on his computers. Based on the wet signatures in the transmission, they are using conventional plasma and particle beam technology. Their ships appear to be heavily armored but slow. Standard galactic doctrine seems to be mass formations and overwhelming firepower. Weaknesses? Everything, ma'am. Their defensive systems appear to be designed to stop energy weapons of similar technology level. Their tactics are textbook galactic standard predictable formation flying and established engagement ranges. They're fighting the same way everyone else in the galaxy fights. Admiral almost smiled, which means they've never fought us. No, ma'am. Our weapons technology diverged from galactic standard over 200 years ago. Our defensive systems are designed to handle the asteroid fields and solar radiation of our own system. Our tactics are, Colonel paused. Our way, Colonel. Same by galactic standards, ma'am. We fight like everything in space is trying to kill us, because in our system it usually is. Admiral turned to her communications officer. Get me President Torres on a secure channel, and wake up the Joint Chiefs. We need a decision on that within 6 hours. The staff jumped into action. Doctor approached the Admiral's station. Ma'am, if I may ask, what are you thinking? We looked at the frozen image of the alien ambassador on the main screen. I'm thinking that someone out there is scared and alone and asking for help. And I'm thinking that for 200 years, we've been the ones who were scared and alone. The risks of helping unknown aliens fight an unknown enemy 47 light years from home. Admiral's expression hardened. Doctor, we've spent 2 centuries preparing for the day someone might come to wipe us out. Our entire military doctrine is based on fighting superior numbers with superior technology and tactics. Gestured at the transmission data. This isn't about risk. This is about finally having a chance to use all that preparation for something good instead of just surviving. 6 hours later, President Torres gave the authorization for Operation Shepherd Humanity's return to galactic affairs. UES Retribution, Earth's most advanced dreadnought, began final preparation for its journey to space. Its crew of 1,200 humans will be the first of their species to leave the Sol system in over 2 centuries. The massive ship powered up its fast-and-light drive. Admiral stood on the bridge and looked out at the stars that had been forbidden to humanity for so long. Navigation plot a course for base, maximum speed. Slide Admiral, 3 weeks to target. And let's go remind the galaxy what humans can do. Retribution disappeared into hyperspace, carrying Earth's answer to a desperate plea across the darkness between stars. UES Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the home system like a ghost materializing from the void. On the bridge, Captain studied the tactical display with the cold focus that had made him Earth's finest ship commander. As a report, he ordered. Its fingers danced across her staging controls. Multiple contacts, Captain. Count 47 vessels in 3 formation groups. They're conducting orbital bombardment of the 4th planet. Also detecting 17 small ships fleeing the system like civilian evacuees. Watch the display update with targeting information. The ships were massive, each one easily twice the size of most Earth vessel. They moved in tight formation, their weapons firing down at the planet below in systematic pattern. What are they shooting at? He asked. Lay in center, sir. Looks like they're targeting cities and spaceports specifically. No military value to those targets. This is just killing civilians. Bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship system. Captain had seen war before, but this was something else. This was extermination. Communications open a channel to the fleet, all frequencies. Comm officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Stood and straightened his uniform. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of Earth's military and the anger of a man watching innocent people die. Vessels, this is Captain of the United Earth Ship Retribution. You are ordered to cease fire immediately and withdraw from this system. You have 30 seconds to comply. Tactical displays showed the ship slowing their bombardment, their formation pattern shifting as they tried to locate the source of the transmission. The lieutenant reported the flagship is responding. The screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien warship. The creature standing at its center was unlike anything in Earth's databases, tall and heavily muscled, with dark-scaled skin and burning red eyes. When it spoke, the translation software turned its words into precise, mocking English. Admiral or of the Imperial Fleet, you will identify yourself and explain how you penetrated our sensor perimeter, unknown vessel. Step closer to the screen. I just did identify myself, Admiral. I also gave you a direct order to cease hostilities. Are you going to comply? Alien's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. Orders. You give orders to the Imperial Fleet. What single ship dares challenge 47 vessels of the line? A ship that's about to turn your entire fleet into scrap metal if you don't stop killing civilians. Admiral's laughter was like grinding metal. Impossible. Our sensors show only one vessel, primitive in design and inferior in firepower. You threaten the might of the Empire with one small ship. Looked at his tactical officer. Commander Singh, please explain to the Admiral why he's wrong. Singh consulted his targeting computer. Sir, the ships are using standard galactic shield technology, rotating plasma barriers designed to deflect energy weapons of similar power levels. Their hulls appear to be conventional alloy over titanium framework. Weapons are plasma cannons and particle beams, approximately 200 years behind our current technology. Translation for our guest. Shields won't stop our weapons, their armor won't slow our weapons, and their weapon can't penetrate our defenses. Roller's expression changed as his technical officers fed him sensor data about the human ship. This is impossible. No vessel that small can carry enough firepower to threaten a fleet. Smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. Admiral, you're about to learn the first rule of fighting humans. We don't build our ships to fight other ships. We build them to fight the universe itself. Fusion had been designed in the asteroid fields around Jupiter, where a single navigation error meant death, a collision with rocks the size of mountains. Its shields were rated to handle solar flares and cosmic radiation that would cook most galactic species. Its weapons were built to crack apart asteroids and destroy incoming meteors at relativistic speeds. As Chant Admiral, withdraw your forces. And for Act Formation 7, destroy the primitive vessel. The fleet moved with practiced precision, their ships spreading into a combat formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. Plasma cannons charged with energy discharges that could level cities. Watched them maneuver and shook his head. They fight like they're afraid of getting hurt. Commander Singh, show them what human weapons are designed to do. Fusion's main gun was a technological marvel, a magnetic acceleration system that could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The projectile itself was simple, a rod of dense metal weighing exactly 1 kilogram. Fired at 90% of light speed, the 1 kilogram rod carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear weapon. Iron solution locked, Commander Singh roared. Target flagship. Fire. Rod left the Retribution's main gun at 270,000 kilometers per second. It crossed the distance of the flagship in 1.3 seconds, far too fast for alien point defense systems designed to stop conventional energy weapons. Shields might as well have been made of paper. The rod punched through them without slowing down. The alien armor designed to stop plasma and particle beams simply wasn't there anymore when the rod finished passing through. Roller's flagship divided into 3 large pieces and several thousand small ones, the explosion bright enough to be seen from the planet below. The lieutenant whispered, then caught herself. Sorry, sir, I've never seen anything like that. Or have they, Captain said, watching the formation dissolve into confusion. That's the point. Commander Singh continued firing. 1 shot per ship, show them what efficiency looks like. The next 11 minutes and 37 seconds, the Retribution demonstrated exactly why Earth's military had spent 2 centuries preparing for the worst-case scenario. Each shot was perfect. Each heart died instantly. The ships tried to return fire, but their weapons couldn't lock onto a target that moved like nothing they'd ever seen. The ship danced through space like a fighter instead of a cattle vessel, its inertial damping systems allowing maneuvers that would have crushed alien crews with gravitational force. Point-defense lasers designed to stop asteroid fragments swatted aside missiles like annoying insects. The shooting stopped. 46 warships had become clouds of expanding debris. Only 1 ship remained intact, a small courier vessel that had been at the edge of the formation. An open communications to the surviving ship. Courier vessel, this is your only warning. Return to your empire. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that if we see ships attacking civilians again, we won't be this gentle. Alien captain on the screen was shaking with terror. Gentle, you destroyed an entire fleet. Destroyed 46 warships in 12 minutes without taking a single casualty. If we wanted to be harsh, we would have done it in 12 seconds. Now go home and think about that. Courier ship jumped to higher space so quickly that it left sensor echo. The debris continued to expand around them. The Retribution received a transmission from the planet below. Ambassador Ara appeared on screen, her golden eyes wide with disbelief. Vessel, are you real? Did you actually come? Smiled, and this time it was warm and genuine. We're real, Ambassador. We get your message. Sorry it took us so long to get here. Alien diplomat's voice broke with emotion. You saved us. In 12 minutes you saved my entire world. How can we ever thank you? Already did. You asked for help and that's all the thanks we need. But Ambassador, we need to talk. This was just 1 fleet. According to our intelligence, they have hundreds more. This fight isn't over. Mr. Aran nodded gravely. They will send everything they have to avenge this defeat. The entire Imperial fleet will come for you now. Good, Kevin said, his expression hardening again. It's time the galaxy remembered what happens when monsters pick fights with humans. As the Retribution moved into orbit around the saved world, its communications array sent a message back toward Earth. The message was simple. Mission successful. Request full fleet deployment. The war has begun. 7 light years away, Admiral received the message and smiled. Humanity was going back to war, and this time they were fighting for something that mattered. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth's children could do when they were truly angry. Ren of the Empire stood in his throne room watching the report for the 5th time. The massive screen showed the same impossible thing with each replay, his finest fleet commander and 46 warships simply ceasing to exist. Explain this to me again, he growled to the trembling courier captain who had brought the news. Nye's claws scraped nervously against the metal floor. Your Imperial Majesty, the unknown vessel appeared without warning. It broadcast demands for our withdrawal. Admiral or refused. Then Then it began firing. One ship destroyed an entire fleet. Yes, Your Majesty, the weapons were unlike anything in our databases. Kinetic projectiles traveling at impossible speeds. Our shields had no effect. Our armor provided no protection. Each shot destroyed a capital ship instantly. Ren's red eyes blazed with fury. The Empire had conquered half the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force. No one challenged them. No one won against them. The very idea was impossible. What species were these beings? What empire sent them? Claimed to be from something called Earth, Your Majesty. Our databases have no records of such a world or species. Emperor's Chief Advisor General stepped forward. My lord, I have consulted the ancient archives. There are fragmentary references to quarantined species in the Galactic Realm, a death world designation with extreme biological hazard warnings. Death, the Emperor spat, myth and legend to frighten younglings. That's not myth, Your Majesty. The record suggests the species was banned from galactic society over 2 centuries ago, if they have returned. Ren slammed his massive fist against the arm of his throne, the metal bent under the impact. I care nothing for ancient stories. These humans have humiliated the Empire. They have destroyed Imperial property and killed Imperial citizens. This insult cannot stand. On the throne room, the Emperor's War Council shifted nervously. They had served in hundreds of campaigns, conquered dozens of species, but none of them had ever seen anything like the report from space. Your Majesty, General said carefully, perhaps we should proceed with caution, if these humans possess such advanced technology. The Emperor's voice rose to a roar that echoed through the vast chamber. The Empire does not show caution. The Empire shows strength. We will gather every warship, every weapon, every warrior in our domain. We will crush these death and leave their broken vessels as a warning to any who would dare challenge us. General bowed deeply. Of course, Your Majesty, but mobilizing the entire Imperial fleet will take time, perhaps 6 weeks to gather all forces from across the Empire. Do it. Send the call to every sector, every system, every outpost. I want 50,000 warships assembled at the next gate. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire. The War Council dispersed to carry out their orders. The Emperor remained on his throne, staring at the frozen image of the human ship. It looked so small, so insignificant compared to the mighty veils of his fleet. How could one ship have caused such destruction? 7 light years away, the UES Retribution maintained orbit around the while its crew worked around the clock to establish communication with Earth. The faster-than-light communications array could only send brief messages across such vast distances, but those messages were enough. Admiral stood in the Loon Command Center, reading the latest report from Hatton. The tactical data was both encouraging and terrifying. Smith Doctor, she asked. The wet analysis on his screen. They are exactly what they appear to be, a conventional military force using standard galactic technology. Their weapons and defenses are approximately 200 years behind our current system. Weaknesses? Designed to fight other galactic species using similar technology. Their tactics are based on mass formations and overwhelming firepower. They've never encountered our combat doctrine. Well, not. Human combat doctrine had been forged in the asteroid fields and radiation storms of the Sol system. Every human ship was designed to operate alone if necessary, to fight against impossible odds, and to win through superior technology and unconventional tactics. Problem, Doctor continued, is numbers. According to Ambassador R's intelligence reports, the Empire controls over 400 systems. They could have 50,000 warships or more. Can we handle those numbers? Looked up from his tactical computers. With our full fleet? Absolutely. The question is whether we want to commit everything we have to a war 47 light years from home. We'll walk to the massive display showing the Sol system's defenses. 200 years of isolation had made humanity extremely paranoid about leaving Earth undefended. The Sol Defense Force included every warship, every weapon platform, every defensive system humanity had built. How long to mobilize the fleet? Core battle groups could be ready to depart in 2 weeks, Colonel replied. Full mobilization would take 6 weeks, but that would leave Sol completely undefended. No, Admiral said firmly. We leave the home guard. Core battle group's only 200 ships plus support vessels and mole bases. We're going to war, but we're not abandoning Earth. Then Torres appeared on the main communication screen from her office in Geneva. Admiral, the Security Council has authorized full military response. The vote was unanimous, for the first time in UN history. Admiral was surprised. The image from space had shown exactly what the Empire did to civilian population. Every human leader had seen those burning cities and made the same decision. Thank you, Madam President, we'll bring them home. As the call ended, Admiral turned to her staff. Ladies and humanity is going back to war, but this time we're not fighting for survival, we're fighting for justice. 6 weeks saw the largest military mobilization in human history. Ships that had never left the Sol system powered up their drives and prepared for interstellar war. The UES Nemesis, humanity's dreadnought, led the formation as the fleet assembled at the edge of Earth gravity well. Maya stood on the Nemesis bridge, watching the fleet grow around her flagship. Each ship represented decades of human engineering and centuries of accumulated paranoia about what might come from the stars. Tetis, she asked her operating officer. 112 cattle ships ready for departure, Captain. 47 support vessels and 3 mole bases. Total crew complement, 400,000 personnel. Not. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, and it was leading the Sol system to fight aliens most humans had never heard of. But the image from space had convinced everyone this was a war worth fighting. Communications from Admiral, the comm officer reported. Admiral appeared on the main screen from our command ship, the UES Vengeance. Captains, in 30 minutes we begin our journey to space. By the time we arrive, intelligence suggests that we'll have assembled their full Imperial fleet to meet us. Admiral's expression was calm but determined. I want everyone to understand what we're facing. The enemy outnumbers us at least 2 to 1, possibly more. They've conquered half the galaxy using conventional tactics and overwhelming force. Paused, looking directly into the camera. But they've never fought humans. They've never faced an enemy that builds ships like weapons and fights like the universe itself is trying to kill them. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when monsters pick a fight with Earth's children. As the fleet began its journey into the unknown, carrying humanity's answer to the Empire's brutality. Behind them, Earth's remaining defenses watched nervously as their protectors disappeared into the dark. Ahead of them, at a place called the Next Gate, 50,000 alien warships waited for a battle that would turn the future of galactic civilization. The age was set for the large space battle in recorded history, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what 2 centuries of isolation had taught them about war. This gate hung in space like a monument to imperial power. 53,000 warships surrounded the massive structure in formation that stretched across millions of cubic kilometers. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, representing the full military might of an empire that had conquered half the known galaxy. And stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and smiled with satisfaction. The massive vessel was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level continents. Around it, his fleet weighed in perfect formation, a demonstration of imperial discipline that had broken the spirit of countless speed. "That's report," he commanded. We'll consult his tactical displays. "All sectors report ready, Your Imperial Majesty. Long-range sensors detect no enemy vessels within 20 light years. We control all approaches to this system." "And the death?" "A sign of them, my lord. Perhaps they reconsidered their foolish challenge to the Empire." Ren's red eyes gleamed with anticipation. They will come. Their primitive pride will not allow them to hide after humiliating Admiral Orr. When they arrive, they will see the true power of the Empire in despair. The edge of the system, space rippled with the distinctive energy signature of ship drawing out of hyperspace. But instead of the massive formation they expected, only empty space appeared at the emergent point. "Sensor anomaly at grid 77 Alpha, at ignition report. Hyperspace emergence detected, but no veils visible." Admiral frowned at his displays. "Sensor malfunction." Before anyone could answer, the human fleet materialized like ghosts becoming real. Stealth systems developed in Earth's asteroid fields, where detection meant death, kept the ships invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. 100 human warships appeared in a perfect sphere around the fleet, each ship positioned for maximum tactical advantage. The formation was impossible by galactic standards. No fleet could coordinate such precision across such distances without months of preparation. Human tactical doctrine was based on fighting in 3 dimensions while dying asteroids at relative speeds. Precise formation flying was simply another day at the office. Ren stared at his displays in disbelief. How did they penetrate our sensor perimeter? "Knowing Your Majesty, they simply appeared." Admiral's voice broadcast across all frequencies, reaching every ship in both fleets. "Emperor Ren, this is Admiral Sarah of the United Earth Defense Force. You are hereby ordered to surrender your fleet and submit to galactic justice for crimes against sentient beings." Emperor's laughter boomed across his bridge. "You dare offer terms to the Empire? 200 primitive vessels against the might of 50,000 Imperial warships. Your mathematics are as flawed as your sanity." "Ships outnumber ours approximately 250 to 1, Admiral replied calmly. "In any conventional engagement, those would be impossible odds. Fortunately for us, we don't fight conventional engagements." Commanding the Nemesis watched the tactical display with the cool professionalism that made her humanity's finest fleet commander. "All ships, implement formation Prometheus. Prepare for synchronized strike pattern Alpha." On the sphere of human ships, one system that had never been seen outside the Sol system powered up. Magnetic accelerators capable of firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Gravity bomb launchers designed to crack apart asteroids. Plasma cutters that could slice through planetary crust. The human ship was a technological marvel, built to survive in an environment that killed anything not designed specifically for survival. Fighting other warships was almost an afterthought. Our Admiral continued, "You have 30 seconds to order your fleet to surrender. After that, I cannot guarantee the survival of your forces." The Emperor roared. "All ships attack Formation Delta. Destroy the Death. Show them the pride of defying the Empire." The fleet moved with practiced precision. 50,000 ships adjusting their positions for maximum firepower concentration. It was a formation that had shattered the defenses of countless worlds, a wall of Imperial might that no enemy had ever survived. Admiral watched them maneuver and shook her head sadly. "They fight like they're afraid of casualties. All ships execute Prometheus protocol. Let's show them what human warfare looks like." Battle that followed redefined the concept of space combat for every species in the galaxy. The ships moved like nothing they had ever seen. Instead of maintaining formations, they dispersed into individual attack patterns, each vessel operating independently while maintaining perfect coordination through quantum entanglement communication. It fought like a pack of wolves against a herd of cattle. The first human strike came from the gravity bomb launchers, weapons originally designed to break apart asteroids for mining operation. The bombs created localized gravity wells that pulled ships together before detonating with the force of collapsed stars. Squadrons of Imperial warships found themselves crushed together and torn apart by gravitational forces that ignored their shields and armor completely. Magnetic accelerators fired next, launching projectiles that crossed the battlefield faster than the alien point defense system could track. Each rod of dense metal carried kinetic energy that turned Imperial cattle ships into expanding clouds of superheat plasma. It was the plasma cutters that truly horrified the commanders. Weapons designed to slice through asteroid belts carved through their formation like hot knives through paper, cutting massive warships in half with surgical precision. Possible, General gasped as his tactical display showed Imperial ship dying faster than his computers could track. No fleet can sustain such losses. Ren watched his Empire's finest vessel being systematically destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before true fear. Focus all fire on their flagship. Bring down their command vessel. 1,000 Imperial ships turned their weapons toward the UES engines. Plasma cannons and particle beams that could melt mountains focused their fury on Admiral's command ship. Struck first streams of superheat matter that would have vaporized any normal vessel, but the Vengeance's shields were designed to handle solar flares and cosmic radiation. The alien weapons were merely warm rain against hurricane barriers. Particle beams followed, seeking to overload the human ship power systems, but Earth's ships were built with redundant power cores and backup systems designed to operate in environments where failure meant instant death. Admiral felt her ship shudder slightly under the massive barrage, but the damage reports showed only minor fluctuations in the outer shield grid. "Turn fire," she ordered calmly. Vengeance's main gun fired once. A single magnetic projectile traveling at 80% of light speed struck the Eternal Dominion amidships. The Emperor's flagship, pride of the Imperial Navy, simply ceased to exist in any recognizable form. Ren had just enough time to understand that his empire was ending before the explosion consumed him. The death of the Imperial flagship broke the formation. Ships that had fought with discipline for centuries suddenly found themselves leaderless, facing an enemy that seemed to violate every law of physics and warfare. Try to flee. The human ships hunting through the debris fields caught them with weapons that could track targets across light years. Try to fight. They died with the same affinity as their comrades, their conventional tactics useless against an enemy that fought like the universe itself. Battle lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When the shooting stopped, 53,000 warships had become a cloud of debris slowly expanding through space. Not a single human vessel had been lost. Admiral stood on her bridge, looking out at the aftermath of the largest space battle in galactic history. Around her, the surviving human fleet began rescue operations, searching for any survivors who might be willing to surrender. Pleaded, she asked. Ships reporting minimal damage, Admiral. Total casualties, 47 wounded, no fatalities. We're conducting search and rescue for any survivors. Admiral nodded. Even in war, humans tried to save lives when they could. Communications, prepare a message to all systems. Standard surrender terms. The message went out across the galaxy, carrying news of the Empire's complete defeat. Admiral looked at the tactical display one last time. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated in an afternoon, a species most of the galaxy had forgotten existed. This she ordered. Tell Ambassador R her people are safe. The Empire is finished. And her, Captain was already plotting courses to the remaining Imperial system. There were still forces scattered across dozens of worlds, and human doctrine was very clear about what happened to forces that threatened civilians. Battle was over, but the war would continue until every last weapon was silenced and every occupied world was free. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided that justice needed to be served. News of the Empire's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than the human ship that had caused it. On 1,000 worlds, beings that had lived in fear for centuries looked up at the stars and dared to hope for the first time in generations. Commanded the UES Phoenix as it approached them. The planet had been under occupation for 37 years, its crystalline cities turned into mining facilities, and its peaceful population enslaved to extract rare minerals. Sensor sweep complete, Lieutenant Commander Park reported from the tactical station. 14 vessels in orbit, including 3 heavy cruisers. They've established orbital weapon platforms covering the major population centers. Studied the display grimly. They had positioned themselves carefully. Any attack on their ships would risk hitting civilian targets on the planet below. It was a coward's tactic, but an effective one against conventional forces. What about those weapon platforms? She asked. Some cannon arrays pointed down at the cities. If we attacked the fleet, they'd kill millions before we stopped them. Nodded thoughtfully. This was exactly the kind of problem human tactical doctrine had been designed to solve. When you spent 2 centuries preparing to fight in an environment where everything tried to kill you, you learned to be creative. They're a targeted gravitational pulse. I want those platforms pulled away from the planet without damaging the surface. Crew worked with practiced efficiency. The Phoenix's gravity manipulation systems had been designed to handle asteroid fields and navigate complex gravitational environments. Pulling some weapon platforms out of orbit was a minor application of the technology. Pulse ready, Captain. Execute. Base around the planet rippled as the Phoenix projected a carefully controlled gravitational field. The weapon platforms, designed to remain in stable orbit, found themselves suddenly pulled away from the planet by forces they couldn't understand or resist. The platform drifted harmlessly into space, kept an open communication to the fleet. Vessels, this is Captain of the United Earth Defense Force. Your Emperor is dead, your Empire has fallen, and your fleet has been destroyed. You have one opportunity to surrender. Reply came from the lead cruiser, its commander's voice filled with desperate bravado. One ship cannot threaten an entire fleet. We are the masters of this world. We're the masters of this world, Captain corrected. Now you're trespassers. You have 30 seconds to surrender before I demonstrate why your empire fell. Ships opened fire with everything they had: plasma cannons, particle beams, and missile salvos that would have overwhelmed any conventional vessel. The weapons struck the Phoenix shields and simply stopped, like raindrops hitting armored glass. Waited for the barrage to end, then responded with surgical precision. The Phoenix's magnetic accelerators fired 14 times in rapid succession, each shot targeted at a 6 system on each ship, not to destroy them, but to disable their weapons and engines without killing their crews. In less than 2 minutes, the occupying fleet was reduced to drifting hulks, their crews alive but helpless. Surrender accepted, Captain announced drily. Prepare for boarding and inspection. Any ship that resists will be destroyed. Our scenes played out across dozens of systems as human task forces methodically dismantled what remained of military power. But liberation was about more than just defeating fleets. It was about helping the survivors rebuild their lives. Sarah stood in the metal bay of the UE at mercy, treating refugees who had been freed from labor camps. The conditions she had found on the mining world's description beings, who had once been artists and scholars reduced to bare living cells. How many more? She asked her assistant as they finished treating another group of liberated prisoners. 17 ships full of refugees from this system alone, Doctor. They had been using them for manual labor in the deep mines. Look at the latest patient, a young whose crystalline skin had been dulled by years of malnutrition and abuse. Can you tell us your name? She asked gently. The creature looked at her with eyes that had forgotten hope. Names were forbidden. We were numbers. I was 773. I felt her heart break a little more. Not anymore. You're free now. What would you like to be called? Thought for a long moment. My mother called me before they came. And that's your name, and no one will ever take it from you again. This was the real work of liberation, not just defeating fleets, but healing the wounds left by decades of oppression. Human metal teams, social workers, and engineers spread across the freed worlds, working alongside local populations to rebuild what had been destroyed. On the bridge of the UEF engines, Admiral received hourly reports from task forces across former space. Each report told the same story: worlds freed, populations liberated, and forces either surrendering or being destroyed. Admiral Commander Torres reported, "We've received a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate talks." Admiral almost smiled. The Galactic Council that had quarantined humanity and refused to help was suddenly very interested in conversation now that the humans had solved the galaxy's biggest problem. Then we'll consider their request after we finish cleaning up the mess they ignored for 5 centuries. Raiding campaigns continued for 3 more weeks. Human forces moved from system to system with methodical efficiency, their superior technology making resistance futile, and their surprisingly compassionate treatment of prisoners encouraging rapid surrender. It wasn't just military conquest, it was a comprehensive rebuilding effort that amazed the liberated population. Your Mari Santos watched her construction crews work on New Carthage, a world that had been strip mined by the until it was barely habitable. Human terraforming technology, developed to make hostile environments livable, was turning the devastated planet back into something beautiful. Sphere composition is stabilizing, her assistant reported. The new vegetation is taking root faster than predicted. And nodded as she watched the skies clear for the first time in 40 years. These people deserved to see their sun again without breathing poison. Work was difficult and expensive, but humanity approached it with the same determination they had brought to war. If they were going to free these worlds, they were going to do it right. Ambassador R stood in the observation deck of the UEF Retribution, watching the reconstruction efforts on her. Cities that had been bombed into rubble were rising again, their spires reaching toward the stars with renewed hope. People amaze me, she said to Kat. You came to help strangers, fought a war against impossible odds, and now you rebuild what was destroyed. Why? Looked out at the construction site below. Because someone asked for help, and helping is what humans do. It's really that simple. At the cost of the resources, the time, the risk to your own people. Ambassador, humanity spent 2 centuries alone, preparing for the day someone might try to destroy us. We built the strongest military in the galaxy, developed technology that can reshape worlds, and learned to fight battles no one else could win. Turned to look at her directly. What good is all that power if we don't use it to protect people who need protection? We didn't come here to conquer. We came here to help. Everything else just follows from that. The reconstruction continued across dozens of worlds. The true scope of human intentions became clear to the galaxy. This was conquest. It was the most comprehensive humanitarian mission in galactic history, backed by military force that no one could challenge. Freed species began to call them something new, not conquerors or liberators, but shepherds. The humans had come like protective wolves, drying off the predators that had hunted the peaceful flocks for too long. Unlike the old galactic cowards who had failed to act, the shepherds seemed determined to stay and make sure the wolves never returned. The galaxy was beginning to understand that the quarantine hadn't contained a threat. It had hidden the answer to their prayers. Months after the fall of the Empire, the galaxy had become a very different place. Where once there had been fear and oppression, there was now something unprecedented in galactic history: true peace, enforced not by politicians or treaties, but by the quiet presence of human ships and systems where predators had once hunted freely. The Speaker of the Galactic Council stood before the assembled representatives of 400 species, her hands trembling as she prepared to address the most important session in the Council's history. The Great Chamber on Next Prime had seen many historic moments, but never one quite like this. Distinguished representatives, she began, we gather today to formally acknowledge what has already become reality across our galaxy. The quarantine of Sol 3 is hereby permanently lifted, and the human species is formally invited to join galactic civilization. The announcement was met with unanimous approval, the first time in Council history that every single species had voted the same way on anything. But then, it was hard to argue against the beings who had just saved the galaxy from its greatest threat. While sat in the gallery reserved for honor guests, wearing the dress uniform of the United Earth Defense Force, she had arrived on the UES engine, which now orbited Next Prime alongside ships from dozens of worlds, all of them former territories that had chosen to accept human protection. Furthermore, Speaker continued, the Council formally apologized for the injustice of the original quarantine, imposed without proper understanding of human nature or intentions. Admiral appreciated the apology, but she knew it was largely symbolic. The real changes were happening in the practical realm of galactic politics, where human military superiority was reshaping power structures that had remained stacked for. For the ceremony, Admiral met with President Torres via quantum communicator from her quarters aboard the Vengeance. How did the vote go? President Torres asked. I was in favor, as expected. They're offering us territorial grants, trade agreements, and a permanent seat on the Security Council. And our response? Admiral smiled. I told them we'd consider their offers after we finished establishing the Protectorate. The Protectorate was humanity's answer to the galaxy's persistent problem with predator species. Rather than waiting for the next empire to arise, human fleets would maintain a permanent presence in key system, ready to respond to any threat against civilian population. It was a radical departure from traditional galactic diplomacy, which preferred to ignore problems until they became too big to handle. But then, humans had never been bound by traditional thinking. Maya stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis as it patrolled the Outer Rim territories. Her ship was one of 50 human vessels now permanently stationed throughout former space, each one serving as both protector and symbol of the new galactic order. Her communications officer reported, we're receiving a distress call from the Helix system. Raiders are attacking the mining platforms. It was already moving toward her command chair. How far? Light years? We can be there in 47 minutes at maximum speed. Do it. And send word to the other patrol ships. I want to know who these raiders think they are and where they came from. Sis leaped into hyperspace with the easy confidence of a ship designed to handle any crisis. But more importantly, every species in the galaxy knew that human ships would respond to such calls, and that response would be swift and overwhelming. Her of mimic strike was ending, replaced by something the galaxy had never seen before, justice backed by unshakable force. Sarah had been promoted to head of the Galactic Metal Corps, a new organization that combined human metal technology with resources from across the galaxy. She stood in the newly constructed hospital on Vex Prime, the former capital of the fallen empire, treating both former slaves and former slavers with equal care. Her assistant said, the prisoner in bed 7 is asking to speak with you. Looked up from her patient charts. The hospital treated everyone who needed care, regardless of their past action. It was a radical concept for many species, but humans insisted on it. In bed 7 was a former admiral who had surrendered his fleet rather than fight to the death. His red eyes tracked her movement as she approached his bedside. "You are the human doctor," he said, his voice hoarse from injuries sustained when his ship was disabled. How are you feeling?" "Fused, you heal your enemies. You rebuild worlds you could have taken for yourselves. You protect species that can give you nothing in return. Why?" Checked his metal readouts, nodding the steady improvement in his condition. "Because that's what intelligent beings do. They help others when they can. We killed your people. We would have killed more if we could. We showed you no mercy. That's why you needed to be stopped. But being stopped doesn't mean being destroyed. Everyone deserves a chance to do better." Former Admiral was quiet for a long time. "Your species is difficult to understand. But you'll have plenty of time to figure us out. The galaxy is a lot smaller than it used to be." It was perhaps the most significant change of all. The galaxy, which had once seemed vast and full of unknown threats, now felt manageable. Human ships could reach in crisis within days, and human technology could solve problems that had seemed impossible just months before. Esther R. stood in her office on Prime, looking out at the city that had been rubble when she first sent her desperate plea to Earth. Now it was more beautiful than ever, incorporating human engineering techniques that made the rebuilt structure stronger while preserving the artistic traditions her people valued. Aide entered with the daily reports from across the galaxy. "Ambassador, the weekly petition briefing is ready." Reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Human patrol fleets had responded to 14 incidents in the past week: hired attacks, territorial disputes, and resource conflicts that might have escalated into wars in the old days. Each incident had been resolved quickly and fairly, with human mediators helping the involved parties reach peaceful solution. "Any major threats?" she asked. Nothing significant. There are rumors of a predator species in the Andromeda Spoil Arms, but they're far outside human patrol range. I made a note to pass that information along to Admiral. Human long-range scout ships were already exploring the spaces between galaxies, preparing for the day when threats might come from even further away. On Earth, President Torres stood in the Rose Garden, addressing a press conference that was being broadcast across the Sol system and beyond. 6 months ago, humanity received a call for help from strangers we had never met. Today, 57 species have formally requested protection under the Human Protectorate, and 12 more have applied for inclusion in our expanded exploration programs. Paused, looking up at the sky where the stars held promise instead of threat for the first time in human history. People ask whether we're building an empire. The answer is no. Empires take things for themselves. We're building something different, a community where the strong protect the weak, where conflicts are resolved through justice rather than force, and where every species has the chance to grow and prosper without fear. Questions from reporters were predictable concerns about overextension, costs, and the risks of permanent military commitments across the galaxy. President Torres answered them all with the same quiet confidence that had marked humanity's approach from the beginning. Taking risks? Absolutely. Are we spending resources we could use for ourselves? Yes. But 6 months ago, billions of innocent beings were living in fear and suffering while the galaxy's leaders did nothing. Today, they're free. That's not a risk. That's the best investment humanity has ever made. As the press conference ended, President Torres received a quantum communication from Admiral aboard the Vengeance. President, I thought you should know, we've received formal surrender from the last holdup fleet. Former Admiral has agreed to rehabilitation programs in exchange for testimony about remaining weapons caches. Any resistance? Apparently, the word has spread that humans keep their promises, both the bad ones and the good ones. They know fighting us is pointless, but they also know we'll treat them fairly if they cooperate. Then Torres smiled. It was exactly the reputation she had hoped humanity would build terrible enemies, but trustworthy friends. As the years passed, the Human Protectorate became the new normal for galactic civilization. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, human meteors resolved disputes before they became wars, and human technology solved problems that had plagued the galaxy for. On 1,000 worlds grew up knowing that if monsters came in the night, the humans would drive them away. Traders crossed the galaxy without fear of pirates. Scientists shared their discoveries freely, knowing that human protection makes a collaboration safe. The Galactic Council adapted to its new role as a forum for discussion rather than a source of authority. Real power now rested with the quiet humans who asked for nothing except the chance to help, and who had proven that sometimes the best answer to violence was overwhelming force applied with surgical precision and moral clarity. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in its history, that true strength wasn't about conquering others, but about protecting them, and they had learned it from the species they had once feared most. In the depths of space, human patrol ships continued their endless vigil, watching for threats that might harm the peaceful species under their protection. They were the shepherds of the galaxy now, and they would remain so for as long as the stars burned in the darkness. Age of Predators was over. The Age of Protectors had begun.